Yes, as we continue our exposés, we come with another special opening of eyes of people who have been tormented to see the very demons tormenting them that they could not see before. Now, Nigeria we live in is like a huge pyramid with granite deckings in which there's an apex, there's a peak, there's a top to it, and it's in 5 layers. There's also a bottom to it, in which the people are the base of that pyramid in their quagmire. And so we have a command and control structure that was designed to be so. And when I say this, I say it because we have the documents of proof. The documents we got by all means, the way WikiLeaks used to get its documents from the British archives, which our fathers didn't see, didn't know. I happen to have been eyeball to eyeball with those who went to negotiate our independence at the beginning of this whole thing that is now being implemented, being enforced, the consensus we have built. Enohoro, for instance, Hope Harriman, for instance, those who actually went to those discussions we've been hearing about, they didn't know about all of the things the British concealed in the background. So we've come today as part of the Enlightenment series that will prepare you for the joint jailbreak that we are, mobilizing for. The prison gate is already shattered. The prison walls are compromised. All of us who are locked here against our will by the brigandage of the British since 1914 and being held here against our will, but with our forged signature under the 1999 constitution imposed by the caliphate, I want us to listen carefully. In that command and control, hierarchical structure, we have a chain of command that is in 5 main compartments. At the peak of that chain, at the head of that chain of command, is the British Crown and the UK government. Next in that chain of command is the caliphate, the Sokoto Caliphate. Down from that is the Constitution of Nigeria as dictated by the first 2, by the caliphate in consultation with the British Crown and government of the UK. Then from that constitution, you come to the 4th layer. That's where your federal government of Nigeria occurs. And then, of course, we could have been talking about the states as another layer, but the states are just appendages to the federal government. They don't really control anything. The 68 items on the exclusive list take away everything. The states are actually the cells in that prison, that caliphate prison called Nigeria. The states are the cells where, the way the prisoners are not all just poured into one compound. The prisoners are kept in cells, separated from one another, and they can't interact themselves with themselves outside what the warders, outside what the prison keepers approve of. So the 36 states and the 7 and 4 local government areas are like inside the prison compound called Nigeria. You now have block 1, 2, 3, 4 to 36. Inside those blocks, you now have cells where you see local government areas. That's what they are. But basically, there's only one government of Nigeria dictated by the constitution in the 4th layer from the chain of command we are talking about. So we have the British Crown and British government, the caliphate, the constitution they dictate together, and the federal government operated by that caliphate. In that chain of command, and the people at the base who are now living with all the calamities we complain about. The purpose of this broadcast is to show you exactly how the things happening to you are coming to you, and from where they are coming, especially the ones we are not seeing. In that pyramid, the British crown is the Coven, the headquarters of the evil we are suffering in that basement, the quagmire of our daily living, where we are being killed and slaughtered, where we are being impoverished and we've become the global capital for poverty, where we can't have electricity, where we can't have equality of access, the quota system, where our infrastructure is dilapidated to the point of no use, where there's no healthcare, there's no education that you can that can produce skills. Everything evil you can imagine is in that quagmire at the base, and that's the daily life of the people. Impunity. What is the cause of all? How did we come to that? We look up, we see our government stealing, corruption, soldier killing, police killing, DSS killing, SARS killing, economy killing, electricity killing. Everything is pouring from that with impunity against all of us, and the immunity for the people who are pouring those things upon us, called government. The Nigeria itself is a prison compound. The states are the building, the blocks, the prison blocks, the blocks inside the prison compound. The local government areas are the cells in the blocks. In that order, but there's only one prison compound, and the occupants, the people. With the chains that is, on their legs, and the shackles in their hands, which is where they begin to see poverty, they begin to see insecurity, they begin to see inequality, they begin to see all kinds of lacks and dysfunctional society. No electricity. Everything they try to do is, like rain falling on them. Now that government they see, basically the federal government that in the 68 items of exclusive list are the ones dishing out this lack of electricity, lack of petroleum, lack of accountability, corruption, impunity, all the things we see in the surface. And the people doing it, that's the government is the one we see. But that's how far most of our people can see. You come to the layer above that government, and to which that government cannot dictate, because in that pyramid, the ones on the ground cannot dictate, cannot speak, cannot even converse with the ones above. The government is, unreachable. Is at another level that we can't go to quarrel with or just say, let us discuss. No, they are above us. Above that level of the government is where you find the Constitution. Constitution 1999. Now let me tell you, that Constitution dictates all of what you see government doing against you. Whether it's corruption, I can tell you the specific sections of that Constitution that creates corruption and protects the beneficiaries of corruption. If you doubt me, go to section 6, subsection 6C of the 1999 Constitution, and you will see that all of what is due to you as citizen of Nigeria that sells 3 million barrels of crude oil every day, everything that is due to you, including your welfare and security, that is supposed to, that you have been told is the principal duty of government to you, your own share of that social contract, what are those things that the government has to do for you, is all written out beautifully in chapter 2 of the Constitution of Nigeria. But section 6, subsection 6C, nullifies it. So in black and white, what it means, you can challenge the lawyers you see, and if anybody tells you any other thing, tell that such a person that Tony Nadi says he is, mediocre. He doesn't know what he's talking about. All of those beautiful things listed in chapter 2 that are supposed to be your own share as the citizen in that social contract called the Constitution is nullified and made discretionary. That's Section 6, subsection 6C says that it is at the discretion of the government of the day to do or not to do. That means if they don't do, you have no legal recourse against them. I was surprised some 2-3 years ago when some lawyers led by Olusegun Abakoba went to file a suit in Abuja against the Buhari that was appointing only his kinsmen into key offices. And they were asking for a damage of 50 billion for what Buhari had done wrong. That thing they took to court, the lopsidedness of appointment in Buhari's administration. The basis of going to court, they were pointing at Chapter 2 that requires, that stipulates some kind of equity in federal character, equal opportunity for everybody. But they did not tell the people who hired them to go to court that there is a Section 6, subsection 6C that nullifies that Chapter 2, meaning that there is no justiciable right you can find. There's nothing that is in that Chapter 2 meant for you that can be taken to court to enforce against the government. It is discretionary to them under that Section 6, subsection 60. The summary of it is that the government does not owe you any obligation at all, including for welfare and security. That is in Section 14. The government does not owe you any of those beautiful things written in the whole of Chapter 2 as your own share of the social contract. That's the one item from the Constitution that deals directly, that brings you to the situation you are in. So the quota system you complain about, it is for them to decide where they put the jam cutoff mark for you and where they put for your neighbor, or common entrance where they put for your neighbor, or how they admit you into federal civil service, or into MPA, or into NNPC, all those things, or appoint you as commander in the army, or commissioner in police. All those things are discretionary to them. They tell you that the Constitution says it has to be spread around, but they have a right under Section 660 to ignore it and appoint only their own people. That is one item. Second item, the corruption you cry about. If the government does not owe you any obligation for your welfare, which includes education and healthcare and housing and all the good things, the infrastructure you require, or equal treatment against everybody, if the government does not owe you any obligation in black and white, as we have seen, and then we come to the appropriation provisions in sections 81, 82 for the president and the federal government, and sections 121 and 122 for the governors and the states. Those sections hand over the spare keys of the treasury to the heads of the executive branch. See the way it works. Section 81 says that the president cannot spend any money from the treasury except by the approval by way of appropriation of the National Assembly. Section 82 says that while the National Assembly is debating that appropriation, the president is at liberty to run government spending money, subject to 50% of what was approved for each subject the year before. So how does it operate? The president that knows about that provision goes to use Ghana must go to put a jumbo figures in budget. And so, knowing fully well that he cannot get more than 100 billion for education, for instance, he will put 300 billion for education. The National Assembly people know that no more than 100 billion can come, but they have seen 300 billion. They collect their money, they collect their own share of that fraud by way of Ghana must go. So 300 billion is written. The reason for putting 300 billion for education by a president that knows that he cannot get more than 100 is to create the threshold that allows him to take everything that comes under the 50% rule dictated in Section 82 of the Constitution. As it is for education, so it is for healthcare, so it is for defense, and all the other subject headings of the budget. the bottom line is that the president has the spare key to the treasury for all the monies that come in to take, pretending he's taken half of what, because he had put the figures that give him leeway to take everything. As it is for the president in section 81, 82, so it is for the governor in sections 121, 122, where the governor is required to go to get permission from state assembly to spend money, but he is at liberty to run government, subject to, in terms of spending, subject to 50% of what was approved the previous year. In the states again, Ghana must go, figures, jumbo figures, and therefore spare key to take everything in treasury. That's how we came to this monumental corruption you see, in which everything that is budgeted ends up in private pockets of those who head the executive branches, both at the federal and at the state. Then you come to section 308 that gives them absolute immunity. And so you can't question them no matter what you see them doing while they're in office. The day they are leaving office, the people they put to replace them are people who will go to prison if any investigation should occur at all. Go and look at it. And so you have this constitution that absolves government of responsibility towards you, that give the heads of the executive branch spare key to the treasury, and give them absolute immunity. You can't question anything they do. And then you come to the one of 68 items of exclusive list, in which your security is only by federal government and they are not in your community. Your infrastructure is in the hand of federal government, they are not doing it for you. Your economic assets, including oil and gas and all the big economic ports and every other thing that solid mineral, everything that represents money is in the hand, by that exclusive list, in the hand of the federal government. Even the question of electing who will govern you. I'm telling you the things coming from that constitution directly responsible for the torment you live in. The refineries, you see every day petroleum prices come up and go up. The refineries are on that exclusive list. Until that constitution goes down, none of these things will change. Your security can only get worse. The infrastructure will get worse. If anybody tells you he's going to bring electricity for you with that constitution still standing, that person is telling you lies, because the electricity generation and transmission is in the hand of the federal government. Now they say they've done amendment that put it on the concurrent list. How does it work? The federal government still have superintendents. The federal government can still override the states if they have an interest, because you can only do those things where the national grid does not cover. I don't know what they've changed in it now, but I'm telling you that the electricity you don't have is on account of that constitution. The roads that are not there is on account of that constitution. The railways that were not there is on account of that constitution. The refineries that are now, we are now buying from international, for a country that produces 3 million barrels of crude oil, for goodness sake. What would the 300 million, 3 million barrels of crude oil every day selling to the international? Why can't we process the less than 10% we require for local consumption? It is because refineries are on that exclusively. Only the federal government can, and you can see the only one they have chosen amongst all is the Dangote to come and refine what they cannot refine and give to all of us, selling to us at international prices. They've already invested $2 billion of our collective money into the private business of Dangote. Having allotted the limestone of Benue to that same Dangote to become Africa's richest man producing cement, whereas Benue can take that cement and find whoever will process it with them and sell together. Lagos can run their port and make their 2 trillion in 1 year from that port. Those who own oil and gas can invite the people who have the technology to come and mine and pay royalty or taxes as we may agree. That is what a federation is supposed to be. So everything you lament about, including who will govern you, people sit in Abuja in the name of INEC, and whatever they process is what you get. If they leave you with a choice of you choose between armed robber or assassin or ritualist, those are the only candidates you have. Go and see the kind of people they process. And then you have, that's what you get as governor. That's what you get as government. It is that constitution that did all of that in that exclusively. So that is what is coming, that is what is dictating what your government is doing, the constitution. That is the layer 3 coming from the top. We've seen the bottom layer. We've seen the next layer. We've now seen what is coming from the third layer, the constitution, in that pyramid. We go one step further. The operators of that constitution, the ones who dictated what is inside that constitution and who are the operators of that constitution, which you see as government down the road, is the caliphate. That caliphate is a power higher than that constitution, which is why they are urinating on that constitution as they are in power now. All of you can see it, that there's nothing you can hold them to in that constitution. They dictated what was in it when it was written, and they are operating it in the way they choose. It is that caliphate that has appointed the heads of all the arms-bearing agencies of government. They are the ones you don't see, but that is where they are. It's them that will appoint the head of NNPC, the head of MPA, the head of customs, all the revenue-generating agencies in the country. They are the ones who will appoint one of them, or whoever they have processed and found fit for their purpose. It doesn't matter what all of you are thinking. But take this map and look at who is manning all of those key points of the economy. Who is manning all of those key points of security? Who is manning all the key points of opportunity in the land? Licensing for this and that. So it is that caliphate that is operating that constitution. And they are not accountable to you. In consultation with their principal up, the Coven, the British Crown and the British government. That's the only one they have to defer to. And so we have now from that caliphate, the peak of the pyramid, the command, the control room of that command and control structure that goes all the way down to where you are suffering. And what you find there is the British Crown and the British government. Are you now surprised why your president, Buhari, practically comes to work from London? Are you surprised that they are summoning all of your candidates for election to come to Chatham House, which is like the front desk of that Coven that has its inner chambers in Buckingham Palace, with number 10 Downing Street as the front office. Chatham House is the front desk in that front office. Peter Obi has been summoned there. We hear from the grapevine that Jonathan had to go there again because of the talk about how he can become candidate for all of them. Look at the pyramid again. What you see is from the top, the Coven, the principalities, that's the caliphate. The powers, that's the constitution they dictate. And the demons, the government you see. Every other thing you see of the governor, council chairman, and all the people tormenting you in your neighborhood are like familiar spirits in that order of evil. And so that is the Nigeria you are in. The reason we had to open all this up for you to see is that anything that will change your situation for electricity or for security or for equal opportunity, all the things you've been struggling to have changed in your life, nothing will change except that connecting rod called the Constitution, by which this unseen principalities and in the Coven, the principalities in conjunction with the Coven from where everything is settled, are holding you hostage by the instrumentality of the powers they dictate into the Constitution, imposing a government and the rules of governance that you had no contribution to. That's how they got to seizing the keys to the spare keys to the treasury and giving themselves immunity and putting 68 items in the exclusive list. In that pyramid, nobody talks upwards. Everything, command and control. The caliphate does not argue with the crown. The crown dictates to the caliphate dictates, consulting with the crown, the contents of the constitution, coming down. The constitution dictates what your government does, and you are at the bottom, receiving all of what flows from the top that now represents the quagmire you live in. I think we have we can now see more clearly. We then invite you to please dress back from whatever you were thinking before. Elections will not solve this problem. You can see you are trapped in a forest of 1,000 demons. You can see you are trapped at the bottom of a huge cage with many layers. You may think, oh, let's go and elect a better person to be governor or president. You are still just at the bottom of that pyramid. Whoever you elect will have to sit under these heavy demons, powers, principalities, and on top. And you are not seeing most of those. We are opening your eyes now. We are casting them, open for you to see. You didn't know they were there before. You can now see what their roles are in the things you are suffering where you are. So what the Nina's intervention represents is a dismantling of that pyramid to free you from the shackles, to dismantle that prison represented by that constitution and the cells you are in the quagmire you live in. If we listen to ourselves and do what all we need to do to finish this task is to shut down the journey to the renewal of the life of that instrument of oppression, instrument of death called the Constitution. The election of 2023 is one in which if we want to be free from bondage, we must stop those merchants, those political merchants from our paths going to that election. If we want to plunge deeper into our damnation, into our bondage, into our enslavement, we can then go to that election and renew the life of that constitution. Those are the choices we have to make. The caliphate is struggling to take us to that election, to save the life of that constitution. We must strive to save ourselves by blocking that voyage. If we block that voyage, we are free. If we refuse to block that voyage and we allow a few unthinking political merchants from the South and Middle Belt to drag us to that place where the caliphate wants to take, that slaughter that the caliphate wants to take us to, it will be our fault. I think we can stop there.